like to bring this Carrollton Board of Education business meeting to order. It is Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. Sorry about that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
And if you all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
I didn't know that started with "Oh God."
All right, we will introduce everyone up here at the head table. We will start down here with Mr. Wolf is at the far end, Mr. Henry, board members, Dr. Andrea Townsend is our superintendent. I'm Leslie Miller, board member. Mr. Cox and Mr. Llewellyn are board members, and Mr. Ryan Sloan is our district treasurer. Out in the gallery, we have Assistant Superintendent Mrs. Tice. We have Mr. Jack Haig, who is business manager. We have Mr. Devin Berry, who's in charge of human resources. And we have Mr. Myers and Mrs. Jones in charge of curriculum. All right, we will go on. It is recommended the agenda for September 15th, 2021 meeting be adopted as presented. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
And, yeah, we need to make a change. Yep.
Yep, Mr. Ivory is not able to make it tonight, so we just need to take him off the agenda for
All right.
presentation.
So item number 10 will not be done this evening. Okay, anything else? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Item number 6, it is recommended that the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 1st, 2021 be approved as submitted. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Any additions or corrections? Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
We do not have any comments from the public relating to agenda items only this evening, so we will go on to our student rep report. We have a couple of them with us. Mr. Llewellyn, do you want to?
Yep, McKenna and Shabri, I see those two with us tonight. McKenna, what would you like to share with us?
So I just wanted to update you guys. We've been meeting with student council on their meetings every Thursday. Last Thursday we discussed some stuff because it's September, and September is Suicide Awareness Month. And so we talked about doing some sort of thing to remind students that they're supported and that they always have some sort of backup from the school district and peers and things like that. We've been working on that. We've been working on homecoming. We picked our theme. It's kind of Halloween. We're excited. Making plans and all that stuff. Not a whole lot has been happening. Tomorrow we have a meeting with student council to talk about more things. So I'll keep you updated on that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we leave the student rep section of the meeting, I would also share, Shabri, did you have anything you want to share?
No.
Okay, didn't think so, but I was making. This Saturday, the 18th, and I know Shabri can't join us for this. So far, she's already let me know that. But if McKenna and Sarah are able to, we have our first meeting with our regional student reps this Saturday, the 18th, at 11 o'clock. It'll last about 60 to 90 minutes. It's a Zoom with the 4 other partner districts that are going to be joining us. There'll be a lot of just introductions, a lot of new student reps in those districts, just like we have in ours. But we'll get a chance to have our kids introduced into that group, and we'll discuss at that point, and we'll report back in October what type of event we want to try to schedule and the kind of topics if we can get that far. I've determined hopefully this happens, that we need to find a name for this group. So I just keep calling it a round table and a regional group. I don't like that. I want us to have some kind of formal name, so hopefully we can come up with something. These kids are smarter than I am, so hopefully they can come up with something witty that makes sense. So that'll happen on Saturday. Thanks.
I think you asked for a name last year, and we just never got a name. I know. You keep plugging away. All right. Now we'll go on to our communications update with Mrs. Corbett. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start off with my usual. You can find out everything you want to know about West Carrollton Schools at westcarrolltonschools.com. You can also follow our Facebook at West Carrollton City Schools, or you can also follow Twitter. You can connect to either of those at westcarrolltonschools.com. The family of John Mummy contacted me the other day, and they wanted to let us know of his sudden passing. John was a quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes and led the team to a national championship in 1961. He was later hired by Woody Hayes as an assistant coach from 1969 to 1977. Then he became a Pirate. He taught biology at the high school from August of '85 through June of 1988, and he also served as the 7th grade head football coach, so we wanted to just extend our condolences to his family. And of course, I couldn't not let you know again, I know you're all aware, but Kurt Mullins passed away very unexpectedly, and he was a West Carrollton graduate. And if you ever had the opportunity to meet him, you didn't forget him, because this is how Kurt looked pretty much every day. Although he would dress for events, including being a leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day, he didn't limit his colorful wardrobe to only special days of the year. There was somebody that commented on our Facebook post, I gave him that shirt when I was in 3rd grade, the custodian shirt, so that was really sweet. Kurt would search for colorful pants, golf pants, T-shirts, anything to wear every day. And he once told me when his son got married, they were a little concerned about what he might wear to the wedding, but I think he confined it to his socks. He was very proud of his children, Curtis, Quentin, and Casey, and he loved the kids at Schnell. I think the kids loved him back because they sensed he was a kindred spirit. He was just another kid. And he was someone who would accept them for who they are. So our deepest condolences are, of course, with his family and friends and all of the staff here. And again, all of the students that won't get to meet him, because he really had a powerful impact with our kids. Reminder to keep watching for communication that comes directly from your child's school. You'll get texts, emails, phone calls, and beware when you get those phone calls, it's an 877 number, so they are not trying to sell you car insurance. They are, in fact, trying to keep you informed about something happening in the school district. Thought I'd give you just a glimpse of then and now. We keep talking about the building project and how far it's come, but at the top, you'll see pictures of the new 5-6 building. At the bottom, the pre-K through 1 building compared December to September. So you can kind of see we went from a level field to actual structure. So that's pretty exciting to see, and sometimes it's hard to visualize when you're just talking about it. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I am very excited to tell you that the Points of Pride is going to be arriving in mailboxes perhaps as early as Saturday, but should be you'll start to be seeing them next week. It doesn't matter what happened last school year, because there were obviously a lot of challenges. However, when I started putting this together, my initial thought was panic, but it is every year. But then I started going back through my notes, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got so much stuff, I can't even get it all into this publication. our kids achieved a lot last year. Our kids did a lot last year. So when you get that in the mail, take an opportunity and read through it. And I have to say, don't read too closely, because just yesterday I was looking at it and thought, uh-oh, there's a misspelled word. And I can't tell you how many people looked through it, but ultimately it's my responsibility and I accept the blame. And we'll see. I'm not going to tell you where it is or what it is. So, yeah, it's only in the printed version. It is online, though. You can click on wcarroltonschools.com, click on district, click on Points of Pride, and you can see the full publication available now on our website. So that is it this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, since we don't have our presentation tonight, we will go on to our business part of the meeting. Mr. Berry, you will be up. Item number 11 deals with personnel items of certificated personnel. Good evening.
Good evening. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 11A, accept the ratification of one individual on a salary notice for the 2021-2022 school year. Item 11B, conditionally employ 2 substitute teachers for the 2021-2022 school year pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. Item 11C, amend the salary for one individual for the 2021-2022 school year. Item D, grant a leave of absence to the listed individual in accordance with the provisions of the Family and Medical Leave Act. And item 11E, amend the listed leave of absence.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Comments?
I just wanted to welcome the 2 substitutes. We certainly need more substitutes. They're trickling in, but I think every school district in the area has a shortage of substitute teachers. So if you know any, please let them know that we need them.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Item number 12 deals with athletic supplementals. Mr. Berry.
The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. 12A, grant an athletic supplemental pupil activity contract to the individuals listed in Appendix A for the 2021-2022 school year. Item 12B, grant a non-athletic supplemental pupil activity contract to the individuals listed in Appendix B for the 2021-2022 school year.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
So, gosh, that's loud. So our supplementals are being held up at ODE still, so that's why they're on the appendix, and they're coming out late because we're trying to get them updated right before the meeting. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Item number 13 deals with classified personnel items. Mr. Berry.
The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 13A, accept the resignation of the listed individual. And 13B, conditionally employ 2 individuals pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
No.
Any comments? No? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes. Hopefully Celesta is staying with us as a bus driver.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Okay, all right, that's fine. All right, item number 14 deals with a physical education waiver. Dr. Townsend.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the board approve the following physical education waiver. Students who have participated in interscholastic athletics, marching band, show choir, dance group, or cheerleading for at least 2 full seasons as defined in the student handbook will enrolled in grades 9 through 12 and as documented by the appropriate school officials may be excused from high school physical education requirement. And then it's the rest of our regular documentation.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
We're excited that we get to add our new dance group to the physical education waiver. The girls work hard, so.
I know someone in the gallery that's very excited about this. All right. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Abstain.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
All right, item number 15, job description, Mr. Barry.
Superintendent recommends that the board approve the ratification of the revised job description, number 212, specialist payroll as presented.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Any comments? Mr. Sloan, anything?
We just needed to make some revisions to that job description.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Item number 16 deals with a transportation contract. Mr. Haig, good evening.
Yes, good evening. The superintendent recommends that the board enter into a contract as presented with senior assistants to transport a student to and from St. Rita's School for the Deaf in Cincinnati, Ohio for the 2021-2022 school year.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And these are usual things, or?
Yeah, last year we were working with Miamisburg on this, and they were transporting for us. They don't have a bus available to do it this year, so we kind of had to go out on our own to provide this service.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Item number 17 deals with financial reports. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. I ask that the Board of Education approve the following financial items. Item A, purchase orders requiring the now certification and the August 2021 financial reports.
I need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Any comments?
These are just the reports, July 1 through August 31, so we're just getting started here in our new fiscal year.
All right. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Item number 18 deals with final appropriations. Mr. Sloan.
I ask that the Board of Education adopt the final appropriation resolution at the fund level for fiscal year 2021-2022 as presented.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Any comments?
These appropriations they're actually the same appropriations that we approved back in August, but for formal purposes, districts have to approve a final appropriation resolution by the end of September. So this is kind of just a formality. But we'll continue to modify the appropriations during the year if needed.
Questions or comments?
I have a question, or not a question, I guess it's a comment. Last night, we had a Miami Valley Career Technology Center board meeting, and we had a permanent appropriations resolution. And one of the things that, thank you, one of the things that I couldn't help noticing was that their Student Success and Wellness Fund, well, let's put it this way, it was almost like a fraction of ours. So I raised a question about the difference, and apparently, well, just to give you an idea, we had what, $1,346,000? Their total one was 184,000. So it's not even close, and I inquired, and I was told that the difference is that somehow there's a connection to Title I, which we get, and they're not into Title I, and so that made all the difference in the world, I guess, in terms of what they got. But it's interesting how things vary from one place to another.
Actually, in our case, we passed, not we, but the legislature passed a new funding formula that kicked in July 1st. But we're not going to really see the details of all that until October. And one of the changes is that the student wellness dollars that we've recorded in Fund 467 the past couple of years, the thinking is that those are going to be wrapped up into the foundation. So if that's the case, those dollars will likely be in the general fund. So when we get that, when that's made official, probably in October, then I will lower our budget and appropriations in our Fund 467. I expect our number to decrease in the future, as far as what's on paper right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Item number 19 deals with a memorandum of understanding. Mr. Berry.
Requesting a motion and a second that the West Carrollton Board of Education approve as presented the memorandum of understanding between the West Carrollton Education Association and the Board of Education of the West Carrollton School District regarding supplemental contracts.
Need a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Comments?
It's a memorandum of understanding for a supplemental position to be added for a PLP coordinator, looking at the additional duties that are required for PLP throughout the summer and throughout the school year. And the other is an amendment to the high school marching band for a visual technician, which was already there. We've amended the salary.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Now it's time for our comments and reports. Anyone have a committee report this evening?
I have a report. As I just said, I had a CTC board meeting last night and got some interesting information, other than the fact that they don't get as much students. But anyways, there are probably 6 or 7 student organizations up there that are based on the programs that our students are in. And we had a couple of students from West Carrollton who are officers in Skills USA Group 1. One of the officers is a Jaha Jackson, she is in the dental assisting program. But she's an officer, I'm not sure what position, but she's an officer in the Skills USA won. And another name that came up a couple times was David Pryor, who has been, probably as we started this year, a student ambassador. Now, these people are involved with the orientation of the juniors when they come up, but then they also, as the year goes along, they will go back to home schools and speak to the students about getting involved and attending the CTC. But David is also, I'm gonna try to get a picture. I'll try to do something for the next meeting. But he's also involved with Business Professionals of America, and he is a chapter officer. Again, I can't tell you exactly what, but what really gets interesting with him, and you talk about thinking about the future, his program up there is computer networking and cybersecurity. Now, it seems to me he ought to be able sometime in May just walk right out the door and into a job. I don't know, but with a program like that, if he knows what he's doing, that'd be pretty obvious. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any committee reports?
I do
Oh,
want to.
Yep, there we go.
I do want to share briefly a couple of things. The legislature, they don't really do much in the summer, but some of these two things I'm going to mention actually happened in June, but they haven't met since June, so I've kind of waited until school kind of got started again to talk about this. But I wanted to relay two different bills to everybody real quick, if you're not aware. The first one has passed already and is already going to be in place. The other one is, I'm not sure how long it'll take to go through the legislature, but it at least has had a couple of hearings in the Primary and Secondary Education Committee in the House. So the first one that's passed already, which I think we alluded to a few months ago, I'm not sure, I think we talked about it before it passed though, is House Bill 82, and it had to do with some requirements for testing and the report cards. And it passed almost unanimously in both houses. It was really, really an overwhelming vote from both the House and the Senate. The House passed it unanimously the first time, but when the Senate worked on it, 3 people decided to vote against it, but it still passed like 91-3 in the House the second time. So basically it has a couple of things I just want to share real quick. It takes the requirement away for high school juniors to have to take an ACT or SAT test to graduate. They can still take it, of course, but it will not be required anymore beginning this school year. So for those students who plan to go into the military perhaps, or plan to get a job when they get out of school and don't really think that ACT is benefiting them, they don't have to take it after this law passed. So I do want to ask a question about that when I finish with this, but the other provision in that same piece of legislation has to do with the report cards. And although I'm sure the details will be more available later because they've got to work out some of them, but the main change is that letter grades will not be the communication method for the report cards. They will be now based on, this almost sounds like second grade to me, but it'll be based on stars. So basically you'll have 1 star to 5 stars as a grade, and that is how the communication will go in the future. It does sound like, from what I've studied about it, that the 22-23 school year will likely be the first year it's implemented. So they're going to take some time to work out details, which I'm sure some will be positive and some maybe won't be. But the letter grade system is over per this piece of legislation. The ACT, SAT question I have for anybody in the room who would like to answer it for me is, would you have any rough idea, district, just for our district, how many kids may likely opt out of taking this? Because they have to opt out. It's not just their parents do have to sign off on opting out, but any just initial thoughts, if perhaps 10% of our juniors or a number maybe lower than that would perhaps take advantage of this. Any thoughts about that?
Craig, you probably can answer this better because it's been mandated for about, 7, 8 years. They put it back in where everybody had to have it.
Right.
I mean, when we have it here, it's paid for the kids. Otherwise, they have to take it off-site and pay for it themselves or obtain a waiver. My suggestion to the kids is to take it. I don't know why they're doing away with it.
Yeah, I think, well, I think one of the reasons it's pretty clear looking at it was money. The expense, they're estimating that several percent of students will opt out of doing it, which will save the state some money in paying for the test. I don't think it's a lot, but their projections are, by the time this starts to kind of kick in a couple years, that they could save nearly $700,000 or $800,000 in the budget from kids opting out of taking this. So money seems to have something, as usual, to do with most of the stuff they do. But the other piece of legislation I wanted to mention is House Bill 61, and it's pretty new. Some of you may recall in the news seeing some issues where transgender students would be competing. For instance, guys would be competing in girls' athletic events, and the legitimate, perhaps biological unfairness of that. And so this House Bill 61 basically puts in place, if it passes, rules that would stop that from happening. So basically, biologically, if you are a boy, you will compete against boys. And if this passes, that would be a provision in it, as well as it does allow for students who, let's say a school doesn't abide by that. It would allow for students to pursue civil action if they feel they were discriminated against in violation of that law. So that's only been through the House Education Committee for 2 hearings, but the second hearing had about 12 or 13 proponents in favor of seeing that actually get further than just the committee. So wanted to share that tonight.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other committee reports, we'll go on to Dr. Townsend.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to give my condolences to the Mullins family and have a moment of silence for Kurt. Thank you. And then I wanted to give an update on COVID and the masking and our numbers in a meeting that we had yesterday with our governor and the physicians from Ohio Children's Hospital Association. So the good news is our nurses were here last meeting, and they talked about how we would see a bit of a little spike when we first started masking. Friday, we had 311 students excluded from school, and today we're at 150. So we're trending in the right direction. So we've had 161 kids return since just Friday. The Ohio Children's Hospital Association put a letter out that is available publicly now, asking us to help our kids. How they're coming into the hospital with symptoms, they're being hospitalized, specifically with the Delta variant. More kids are in the ICU. Other illnesses such as RSV are at levels they don't usually see until the winter. More kids are coming to school with other behavioral issues, and the workforce is overloaded at the hospitals. So they're asking Ohioans, if you're eligible, please get vaccinated. Please wear a mask, especially during school or while attending large gatherings, and please adhere to proven safety practices such as physical distancing and hand washing. And some facts that were shared with us yesterday. Since August 15th, 2021, there have been 29,823 Ohio school-age kids from ages 5 to 17 with confirmed and probable cases of COVID-19. Cases among this age group increased 198% from the week of August 15th as compared to the week ending September 4th. COVID-19 cases are increasing at nearly twice the rate among school-age kids as compared to the rest of the population. And the 16 days with the highest number of cases per day throughout the entire pandemic for kids ages 5 to 17 have been in the past 19 days. School districts where masks were optional have seen a 54% week-over-week increase compared to a 34% increase in school districts where masks were either required for all or usually grades K to 8. All except, it looks like TIP, there's a list online. I got my list from WHIO. TIP City is still highly recommending, but almost every district is has some kind of mask recommendation in place. And then some of the other data that was shared with us, the student numbers right now are anywhere from 664 to 1,000 out of every 100,000, well over the CDC guidelines of 100 to 100,000. 29,000 school-age kids, as I mentioned earlier, have ended up with COVID. There's two categories that are really high right now: the too young to be vaccinated, or unvaccinated houses or unmasked schools. They did a study in Summit County of positive cases. 1,027 students were quarantined, but only 23 of those students came from schools where masks were not required. The hospitals are at their breaking point. They actually had to bypass in Lucas County all of their hospitals because of COVID cases. And evidently, and I wrote this down verbatim, schools are the only ones who can mandate masks due to the legislative body and House Bill, or Senate Bill 22. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else. We just continue to appreciate the support, and it's helping us keep our kids in school. So I just wanted to give a brief update from our meeting yesterday.
Did they by chance tell you the current numbers in Ohio that are hospitalized that have had the vaccine? Because it's at 57%.
They did not. They said it'll be available to us. We did not get that in our statistics today.
Yeah, that was released yesterday. 57% of all hospitalizations right now with COVID are vaccinated patients, which I found very interesting.
For the but that's for everybody.
Across the board,
Yeah.
across the board.
These are specific to kids.
Yep.
So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sloan, anything this evening?
Also, just wanted to express my condolences to Kurt Mullins' family. He would occasionally do the bus route, and so we would have the opportunity to see him in the central office, and he was he's very avid and a very knowledgeable basketball fan. He loved the Boston Celtics, and I enjoyed getting to know him and talking basketball with him, and we'll miss seeing him, and as everybody else will across the district.
We'll go to our central office staff. Mr. Barry, anything this evening? Okay. Mrs. Tice, anything this evening? No? Mr. Haig, anything?
Give you a quick update on the buildings.
Sure, go right, come on down.
Called the elephant in the room, right?
Just a real quick update. I know if you drive by them, you're seeing a lot of progress. It's funny, you don't see a lot on the outside right now. There's a lot more going on inside the building. The other day, somebody made a comment. I took them on a walkthrough, and they said they didn't realize how many people were actually working on the side of the PK1. That day, we had about 100 people in there working. But you got the guys hanging the HVAC systems and the piping and the plumbers and the electricians, and now they're putting the wall studs up, the metal studs for the walls are going up. So it's a lot of people inside that building. Where we're at now is they're starting to put the roof already on the PK1. They started that process yesterday on the lower section, the office area. They will pour the complete concrete roof on top of the tornado shelter. Tomorrow or Friday that begins, they'll start with the rebar to bar that in, and then next week they will be coming in the end of next week or probably the first of the following week, like Monday, the following week. They'll be pouring a 6-inch thick concrete roof onto that tornado shelter to finish it off, and then that will be totally enclosed. All the structural walls and structural concrete will be poured. You'll start seeing the outside veneers are going on the buildings, so you'll start seeing the colors for the actual building popping up. You'll see the grays and the tans coming up, and the dark charcoal looking brick on the front of the PK1 should start popping up next week. So there's a lot going on, and probably every week you'll see something changing on that. So the only other thing is I want to thank Denise. We did a celebration of life for Kurt Mullins last Thursday, and Denise organized that event. Between her, Mrs. Yerman, and the staff at Schnell, I think they did a great job of pulling something together on very, very short notice and being able to have something that was well attended by the whole community. So I want to thank her for her efforts of doing that. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to board comments. Tom, do you have anything this evening?
Absolutely. I prepared this for the, Mrs. Corbett, could you help be the class distributor? Although that doesn't sound very good. I prepared this for the Career Technology Center last night, and I figured if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. We have big changes coming, absolutely, because over the last several months, probably in 2020 on, we had the census. And the census was a little slower this year. Most of us got online and registered ourselves. A lot of people don't do that. We found out the hard way that a lot of people aren't comfortable with a computer, so it took a little longer, and they ended up doing door-to-door stuff and all that. But they finally have numbers. I think they may have gotten to the point of saying, hey, we got a time limit here, and this is the best we're going to get, so here you are. So that first page is basically the Dayton area. I should say this real quick. Ohio overall has lost population in the last 10 years, and as a result of that, Ohio is losing a U.S. congressional seat. We are going from 16 to 15, and that's going to have to be totally redistricted. And so that's going to occur. The General Assembly will do that, and we're under deadlines here, folks. The General Assembly is going to do that by the end of the month. So we'll see how that shakes out. And actually, to be honest with you, today, September 15th, is a deadline for getting the state House districts and the state Senate districts aligned. Well, that's not going to happen, obviously. Well, maybe it will. Who knows? But basically, I wanted to talk a little bit about all of that. What you see in front of you is population changes. So you can look at your little corner of the world and see how that looks. It's interesting to look at counties because Warren County continues to be like the third largest, fastest growing county in the state. Montgomery County had a slight increase. Other counties did not. Miami County had a good increase. Most of the teams in our league saw increases. So that's kind of statistics to look at. Now, the impact of that is basically on the second page, and that is the districts, House and Senate. And on this map page, to the left, at the top are current House districts, and below that are the current Senate districts. Now, the way this works, folks, and this is one of those challenges to the people trying to make up districts, is that you have 99 House districts and 33 Senate districts, and in every situation, 3 House districts go into 1 Senate district. So that in itself is a challenge. But the other issue that has come up numerous times is there shall be no gerrymandering. Now, gerrymandering is when you design these district lines, you do that to favor one party. And they're more or less saying, well, there'll be none of that. But it's quite a challenge because there's so many Republican areas in the state, and it's kind of hard to set anything up without having it look like gerrymandering. But if you look at the top left on the map page, what you see there is Montgomery County, kind of up there on to the little bit to the left, and what you have is across the top is District 40. Along the right east side is 41, and across the bottom is our district, which is 42. And those 3 are big suburbs, and so the 3 of them, and I forgot to mention this, I'll throw this out, one of their challenges is that every House district will have approximately 119,000 people in them. And then if you put 3 of them together, every Senate district will have about 357,000 people. That in itself is a challenge to keep that balanced. But you have those 3, and then if you look down below, they become currently Senate seat 6. And that worked out fine. It has for 10 years now. But the other one is Senate 5, which gets a little bit more complicated because there's not as many people where the 3 that fit into that. And those 3 are 80, which is Miami County and the lower part of Dark. That's up there on that green, sort of a light green. And then below that, Preble County, that is 43, which is Rodney Creech, and that comes into Montgomery County. And then right in the middle of that, and you can hardly see it, but District 39 is basically Dayton, Trotwood, and Jefferson Township. Now, 10 years ago, when that was set up, they were almost conceding 1 Democrat district. They said, okay, we'll set this thing up. Dayton, Trotwood, Jefferson Township, we'll just set it up, or we'll leave it alone. We won't do anything to it. We won't take anything away or anything like that. So that's what they've had for 10 years. So it's not so bad from the House point of view, but from the Senate point of view, if you look what they've done down in the bottom left corner, Senate 5 basically is Miami County, Preble County, and a part of Montgomery County, and that includes that Dayton, Trotwood, and Jefferson Township. So basically, what that means is Miami County and Preble County would largely be Republican. So basically, the way they set that up is no Democrat would be elected in that Senate 5. Lots of Democrats would be elected in 39 in that particular House district, but none would ever be elected so gerrymandering wouldn't apply to the House situation, but it does apply to the Senate district. But they've got orders not to do that, so we'll see how it works. Now, this is what's going to happen. Oh, by the way, there's a commission that has 7 people on it, 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats, which basically reflect the situation in the whole state. Governor DeWine, Senate President Matt Huffman, House Speaker Robert Cupp, State Auditor Keith Faber, and State Senate Secretary of State Frank DeLaRose. Those 5 Republicans are on that committee. So you know how things are going to go. They have to, even if they don't try. And the 2 Democrats actually are related to each other. Senator Vernon Sykes, who I think's been around a long time, and then his daughter, who is a House Minority Leader, Amelia Sykes. The 2 of them are the Democrats. So keep that in mind. 5 Republicans, 2 Democrats. What is going to happen? And it could be tonight. It could be any day this week. It won't, because the deadline was supposed to be today. There will be a proposal of a map. It probably won't be anything like what you're looking at here in the second or third column, but it'll be a map. And you don't have to look at this very long to realize things are different. The one on the right is a Republican proposal. So if you look at what they did with, for example, Darke County this year, and also in this proposal, the bottom part of it is cut off. But in the middle, Darke is put in with Preble and a little bit of Butler. I mean, they make these things sometimes crazy. But a map will be presented, and it'll probably be, it'll look like that it favors Republicans, but it won't be intentionally that way, at least not supposed to. So then the 2 Democrats almost have as much power as the 5 Republicans. Because if those 2 Democrats say, no, we don't like this map at all, so we're not going to endorse it. Well, if that happens, they're going to push the thing through anyways. And so the 2 Democrats have to either say, okay, we realize how complicated this is, how challenging this is, we'll go ahead and endorse it, and away everything goes. If they continue to refuse to endorse it, then this isn't pretty, I guarantee you. It'll go into effect, but it will only be in effect for 4 years. Now, it's supposed to be 10. We're supposed to do this until 2030, when I'm sure Mrs. Miller will be president again, maybe that year. But anyways, it's supposed to go 10, but it'll only go 4 if the 2 Democrats say, no, we don't like it, we refuse to accept it. Republicans will go ahead and put it in anyways, but it won't go 10 years, it'll only go 4. Well, nobody wants to revisit this in 4 years. So chances are everybody's going to concede, I think, and probably whatever they propose tonight, tomorrow, end of the week, who knows? But whatever they propose will probably move forward, and we'll be in business. But it is totally going to change the entire legislative landscape. We will not be in, what did I say, 43, was it? No, 42. We will not be in 42. We'll be in some other number, and who knows who we're going to be in there with. And so that's kind of what's coming, and it is on us. It's like any day now. This is all going to happen, and so watch the newspaper. They'll be all over it in terms of this. But it's a heck of a challenge when you've got a state like Ohio, which is so many areas that are Republican. How in the world do you set anything up without looking like you're doing gerrymandering? But that's the challenge they have. And we will see what we get, but I just wanted you to all know that this is right on top of us. It's just a matter of days until this goes into effect. Does anybody have any questions about the whole thing?
Nope.
I'm like a,
We're good.
I'm like a classroom teacher. I ask the class whether they understand everything, and everybody just looks at you,
We're good.
doesn't say a word. That's okay. That's better that way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Henry, anything this evening?
Yes, I'd like to recognize and thank our nurses in the high school, the middle school, Holiday Elementary, Russell Elementary, and, who did I leave out? Chanel Elementary, for the day in, day out work that they're doing to protect the health of our students and our staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cox, anything this evening?
Just a couple of things. Condolences go out to Mr. Mullins' family. He was such a big part of so many kids that have gone through the district in the last 18 years. My kids would come home and talk about him all the time. It's a huge loss, not only to Chanel, but to the district. I've got a couple questions about homecoming. Are we going to be having the parade as normal and everything else as normal?
They're working on the dance. We are having the parade and the football game.
Okay, is the parade the same as it's always been?
I don't know.
Who would know that?
The high school
The high school would know that?
campus. Oh, well, Jack will know that. Yes. Thank you.
I've gotten a few calls this week from different groups that are told they're not going to be allowed to be in the parade.
I don't know about who's in the parade or not. I thought you were speaking of the parade routes and because of the construction. But the parade route's the same. I don't know about who's in the parade and who's not in the parade.
Who oversees that?
Judy.
I mean, is she the?
Parade
Coordinator.
Well, let me ask this question: Is she the supreme commander of all of this? Does she make all the final decisions on all of this? And is she making the regulations and rules for all of this?
Everybody should be, that has been invited before, nobody should have been excluded. I've been, talking to us, that nobody should be excluded from the parade. So if they are saying that they haven't gotten an invite yet, it's because we've been working on the parade routes.
Okay, I'll ask the questions just to make sure of the invite or being told they're not invited. So I'll ask that question. I was just curious how that went and what was the governing body of that?
Just have them email Judy Brooks.
Okay, that was the name that I got from two different groups about their concerns about it. So I didn't know if the district was the overseer of that. It's just the high school, and it's just her. So she has all the say about how that happens.
Don't look at me, I don't want to say.
I'm just asking questions because it seems like nobody
Yeah.
knows.
Apparently.
Judy gets a stipend, Judy plans that, somebody else plans the dance, we have the football game,
And nobody
the high school.
nobody up top oversees any of that.
Jack oversees the route.
That's it.
No, I just provide consultation.
I do know there are rules governing who, can participate in the parade. I don't know those off the top of my head, but for instance, a political organization cannot. So we have instances where, maybe somebody may be running for mayor or some political, group, and they are not permitted to be in the group. I know Mr. Wolf, I don't know if you remember asking me to go and ask people to get out of line who were political candidates, but, other than that, there are some guidelines for participation.
But is that state level guidelines? Is that
I
our? I
can't
mean.
say that. I don't know where those originated. They existed before my presence here.
So do I get a hold of her to find out what? I mean, she doesn't have a boss.
She does, yeah, sure, but I mean, we can find that out.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, of all the years I've been involved in, well, with the float for Schnell and the senior float once, I just never knew the guidelines and who was in charge of that, except for Ms. Van Dyke had said. But there's nobody who oversees that. It's just that person that does it. So yes. Okay. All right. I'll ask questions a different way to her. Pirate Packs had a fundraiser charity at the Italian Festival this past weekend, and I'd like to thank all the volunteers that came out and put in some crazy hours. We generated $4,000 from the Italian Festival group for working Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. Garbage pickup. Not a proud thing, but like I said, I'll do about anything to keep money coming in to Pirate Packs. Mr. Llewellyn was with me and some of our other board members, and then we had a Girl Scout group show up. They helped out for a bit, and then a few other volunteers. So thank you to all them. We've had a pretty good bunch of churches and what's the group back here behind it? Canterbury Court. Canterbury Court has always been a huge supporter for us, for Pirate Packs. They're about once every 3 weeks. They got a full barrel for us, so thank you to them. And it sounds like we are going to be doing a Fill the Bus contest during homecoming for Pirate Packs. We'll be taking donations Friday and Saturday here by the stadium. Those details are not worked out yet. We'll get those out as soon as possible, but we would like to see the local churches, maybe fire stations, the police departments that are involved in our district, local groups, fill this bus up. We're looking for donations of food, and those can be seen on our piratepacks.org website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Llewellyn?
I'm going to mention this since you brought up the festival. On Sunday, we had some Girl Scout volunteers, and I originally thought they were teenagers. And when they showed up and they were 8 years old, I realized they weren't teenagers, and I thought, how am I going to use them? Because it's a lot of weight, pick these trash bags up, and they're just all ready to go. They're going to be there for 3 hours. I'm like, I got to figure out something. So I get these smaller bags, and I don't know if anybody's been to this festival before, but one of the things they sell there is gelato. The kids didn't really know what that was, but when I showed them, because I was trying to motivate them to collect trash from the grounds, just walk around and pick up stuff, and whoever gave me the fullest bag was going to get gelato, although both of them were going to get it, but they didn't know that. So what's funny about this is they both had their Girl Scout vest on, and they're walking around, and they come up to me about, 30 minutes into this, and said, these people just gave us some money because we were picking up trash on the ground, and they saw our vest, so they earned enough money to buy their own gelato. So just, next year if we do this and we have some Cub Scout boys and some Girl Scouts come again, they need to bring their vests because, they can at least pay for their own treats if they help us. So I wanted to pull this up because just in case you haven't seen this online, I'm sure a lot of people have, but I certainly want to convey my condolences to the Mullins family as well. And I just saw him at the Schnell open house pretty recently, a couple weeks ago, and I'm astounded at I shouldn't be, but because we've known him a long time, but just at how well he remembers kids' names, and when they come in there to the open house, they're just hugging on him, and he's bringing up stuff to talk to him about, and it's just like, they haven't skipped a beat from the summer, and kids just hug. You don't, with all this COVID stuff, you don't see a lot of hugging anymore in the past year or two, and that's understandable. But when these kids come in there, they're just loving all over him because they've missed him and they care about him and stuff, and the sentiments are mutual. It's just, I just stood there and watched it, and it was just so great to see that. And that's obviously something the district's going to miss now, but there's going to be a scholarship fund set up for him. There is a Facebook post, which I know this won't show up good, but there's a shirt you can purchase for $20. $8 of that $20 goes toward that fund, but I'm pretty sure you can reach out to the PTO with Schnell or the office at Schnell and ask more about this if you'd like to contribute to it. But the family, Miss Bateman, okay. Audrey Bateman as well to contribute if you want to the Kurt Mullins Scholarship Fund. So I think that's going to be a worthy thing, and hopefully generate some scholarship funds to help future students. I think that is basically it. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, for me, there's not a whole lot. Our fall sports are about midway through, and we're doing great. So far, so good. Everything, we've had some weather problems, but things are getting there. I did manage to get in my tennis match today, so that's a good thing. Nothing like blow drying the court. We're all going to be going into the last half of our season here, which is just weird. It seems like we just started, but I also wanted to convey my condolences. Our hearts and prayers go out to the Kurt Mullins family. And yes, that I unfortunately was on a bus back from Piqua, so I did not get to be at the memorial. I did hear lots of really good things, and I know that he was deeply loved by everyone over there at Schnell, and that went through. I had some of my team members on my tennis team that were very upset with it. In fact, one of them came back early from our match to be there at the service. So thank you again, Denise. Thank you for that. We do not have a executive session nor a work session this evening. So I will entertain a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
This meeting is concluded. Thank you.